Hey Driscolls, it's Brent here with the final video in our time series. In this video we are going to crown a champion and compare the result and say who actually won our card game here. So let's get stuck into it. The very first thing that you will need to do is jump into this game over sprite if you haven't already. Okay, it's a pretty ugly looking thing, you might want to jazz that up a little bit, but it hides as soon as the green flag is pressed, so you will never see it until the game is over, but then you still won't see it until we tell it to show it. So that's the first thing that we need to do, is we need to show this button when the game state is equal to end and we've ended the game. Alright, so now that we've shown it, we need to figure out who actually won this game. So I've got a variable here called the winner seconds, alright, and this is going to be the variable that we're going to use to be able to decide who was the winner. The way that we're going to do that is we're going to subtract the player 1 seconds. Okay, so here's the player 1 seconds. We're going to subtract, these play 2 seconds from player 1 seconds. All right, so let's actually just see what that might mean. So if player 1 took 10 seconds and player 2 took 5 seconds, or thereabouts, 5 seconds, that would be 10 minus 5, which would give us a positive number, 5. So that means that it took longer for player 1 to finish the card game, and it took player 2 less time. So we got a positive number there. Okay, so that would mean player 2 wins. If anytime we get a positive number, player 2 will be the winner. If player 2 takes longer, if player 2 takes, say, 20 seconds, that would then be 10 minus 20. Now hopefully you'll know that this takes us into integer territory. It's okay if you haven't done integers yet, but this is just below 0. So this would be 10, take away 10, which is 0, and then you would take away another 10, and that takes us into negative numbers, and that would be negative 10. So any negative number we get, that means player 1 is going to win. And that's going to be our logic. Alright, so let's actually set that value now. So grab a set block, and we're going to set the winner seconds to get this addition operator out there. Sorry, what addition? This whole time we're talking about subtraction. You've got to get that subtraction one out there. Make sure you take away, you're doing player 1 total seconds, and you're taking away player 2 total seconds from the player 1 total seconds, okay? And that will give us the values that we get there. I'm just going to break this outside just to show you what that will look like. So if I double click that, it shows it, and just as I suspected, the winner seconds is negative 10, and that means that the player 1 was victorious. So the next thing for us to do is actually wrap that in an if statement. So let's actually do that. So we're going to do an if and else statement, alright? It's an either or here. It's either player 1 wins or player 2 wins. Actually, we could have a draw. We could well and truly have a draw, but we're not going to play for that. It's very unlikely that we'll get a draw, but we could adjust it down the track. You could even try and do that a bit later. So to adjust for our draw, to actually determine who the winner is, we need to get a control statement here. So let's get one of these less than symbols, and we can say if the winner seconds is less than 0, we said if it is a negative number, that means that it took player 1 less time, which means player 1 is the victor. Alright, so remember here, 10 take away 20. 10 seconds, 20 seconds. It took player 2 longer. We're getting a negative number, so player 1 is the victor. So let's just go into our looks and say here, player 1 is the winner. Okay, then you can just duplicate that. Remember, for any positive number, which is just the opposite to that, you'd say player 2 is the winner. So we can actually just get that there now. Let's double click at that, and player 1 is the winner. If I bump that up to something bigger, so now it took player 1 longer, and now it's going to get to player 2, we'll double click that again. I would have expected, we didn't actually set it. So there we go, now we can set it. So setting the player, and there you go, player 2 is the winner. So that is kind of cool. But we can do more than this. We can actually do a lot more than this. So we're going to go in and say who was the winner and by how many seconds. Okay, you could even go one step further and add in the minutes, the seconds, and the milliseconds as well. So let's just start with the seconds. So to do that, what you'll need to do is we've got our winner seconds here. This is the difference. This is the difference between the number of seconds it took. But at the moment, it can be a negative number, as I'll show you here. It can be a negative number. So if we set it, again, I'll drag that out there, it's now -9. So one thing that we can do here is there's this thing called absolute values, and you can use this this control here that says ABS, and that means absolute value. So you can get the absolute value of something, and that just strips it of its negative value. So if I get the absolute value of winner seconds, you'll see here it says 9, so it actually tells us here with that pop-up. It's -9, but remember, an absolute value just strips it of that value. So I can actually just bump that up here and just see it's -34, so you'd expect this to be +34, and it is. So that's all the absolute value does. So quite simply, you could just say that player 1 is the winner by, you have a space, and you get a join operator here. I reckon some of you may have used that before, so we'll get that. We'll pop that in there. So player 1 is the winner by, I'm going to get another join statement here. Seconds, so we can get the absolute value. There we go. So player 1 is the winner by the absolute value of winner seconds and seconds. Alright, I can duplicate that, and instead of player 1, I can just write player 2. Okay, so if I double click all that, player 1 is the winner by 34 seconds. Alright, so we're just about at the end of our game now, so you'll need to grab this block of code and reattach it to back under here. Now remember, this doesn't account for the draw, so you might want to sort of break up this if statement, and you could create another one for the case of draw. So if winner seconds is equal to 0, then you would say it's a draw. So it'd be pretty simple to do that, I would imagine. So that is that's our game. So what we might go ahead and do is just to run through all this, we'll just see if this is all working as it should be. So we'll go in and let's get our favor little matches, our little cheater thing back up here. So that's all done. Our time's ticking away. Let's go in and play the game. Yay, so player 1's done, so 7 seconds and 50 milliseconds, and our time is registered up there. Now it's player 2's go. Clock is reset, that's all good. So who's going to win this one? So it looks like I'm not going to get there. Looks like player 1 has won. So player 1 is the winner by 2.3 seconds. That looks a bit weird to me. So what's happened here is it just hasn't rounded the value. So it looks a little bit funky. We can go ahead and clean that up, but for the purposes of this demonstration, this is a positive value, and it has corrected the right winner there. So that's pretty cool. That's probably it for this series. I hope you enjoyed following along. The cool thing about this is you'll be able to take this game, remix it, and if you've got anything going forward, you could actually use these memory cards to assist you without having to make them all the time. And you've got a clock here that you could reuse as well. So all that code is in the stage, and now you know how to make a clock and how you can put it into scoreboard. So we've used some variables here, a lot of variables. We've used some lists. You haven't actually made lists, but I use them pretty heavily in creating these cards in this game. So there's lots of elements here that you can use for your programming of games going forward. So it's pretty cool. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will catch you in another series. Until then.